It's finally that time here on the channel. We are talking NBA draft here on 76ers now. On today's show, going to go through 10 potential draft targets for the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2025 NBA draft. Keep in mind, the Sixers' first round pick is top 6 protected. If it falls outside of the top 6, it does go to OKC. Right now, the Sixers tied with the number 6 lottery odds with the Brooklyn Nets, so it gives them about a 35% chance to keep that pick and about 8% chance to get the number 1 overall selection. So hopefully they're able to keep that first round pick. Before we get into these 10 targets, if you want the Sixers to win the draft lottery and probably take Cooper Flagg, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Let's bring the Sixers some good luck here in the NBA draft lottery. All right, so 10 names that we're going to talk about here on the show that could be targets for the Sixers. Let's start off with the consensus number 1 overall pick, and that is Cooper Flagg. What he is doing as a freshman in college basketball is almost unprecedented. He does everything on both sides of the ball. Offensively, some have compared him to what Zion Williamson did as a freshman at Duke, and then defensively, people are comparing him to what Anthony Davis did as a freshman at Kentucky. So he's doing things isolation, he can dribble, he can shoot, he can defend, he can finish. There is really nothing that Cooper Flagg cannot do. And I know it's a little unlikely the Sixers do jump up to number 1 to be able to draft Cooper Flagg because he will be the number 1 pick, whatever team ends up getting so lucky to get that number 1 overall draft selection. But just thinking about Cooper Flagg, he fits perfectly with this Sixers roster. When you think about the way they are constructed, they need another big wing that can really do everything. Of course, every team could use a player like that, but particularly Philadelphia could use Cooper Flagg to the highest of his capabilities. And just Adam Silver, I'm talking to you right now. You know, NBA ratings haven't been doing quite as good. You got this generational prospect coming in. You want some buzz to build around the league? Get the Sixers a number 1 overall pick so Cooper Flagg can go to Philly, because the storylines with Cooper Flagg in Philadelphia on a team that should be able to reach the postseason next year, playing with young talents like Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, playing with Joel Embiid and Paul George, Cooper Flagg in Philadelphia, that would raise those ratings. So Cooper Flagg, my number 1 draft target for Philly, consensus number 1 on the board. Number 2, going to Dylan Harper, point guard / shooting guard out of Rutgers. Very, very skilled freshman at 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Great feel for the game. His calling card, he really has some big-time shot-making ability. Likes to operate more with the ball in his hands, so more of a primary ball handler there. And I think even still, obviously Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain on the roster, a player like Dylan Harper, probably going to be the 2nd overall pick, still could be good for the 76ers. He can score from all 3 levels. Not an elite athlete, but just a big-time offensive talent who knows how to play, knows how to win, and I think would still be able to make an impact on the 76ers. Number 3, Dylan Harper's teammate at Rutgers, Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey, big, tall, lanky wing at 6'9", 200. He has as much upside as anybody in this class. Awesome size, big-time ability. He takes tough shots, and he makes tough shots. I mean, just look at his numbers right now. You can see he can score it in bunches and get boards at his size at 6'9", but he is a little more raw, I think, than those 2 top guys. But again, has that upside. It's really rare to find a player at his height who moves the way he does, has the skill that he does, along with his athletic tools. So if he's a guy that could fall to 3 or 4 in this draft, the Sixers move up to one of those spots. Another guy at that wing spot who would be perfect to pair up in that potential starting 5. Moving on to number 4, we got VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. Now, VJ, definitely an elite talent at that 2-guard spot. Can kind of play the 2 or the 3, although there is some concerns about his actual height, listed at 6'4". Some people think he's more 6'3", but with VJ Edgecombe, the thing with him, he has all the athletic tools you could ever possibly ask for. He is an elite athlete, the type of guy that can get above the rim, and when he enters the NBA, he will be in the top 5% of all just athletes, strictly speaking, with his ability. He plays with a lot of intensity, and he has all the intangibles that can really make you a great player, but he needs to really improve that outside shot and just get a better feel for the game and become a better actual basketball player. VJ Edgecombe, he has, again, as I mentioned, very high potential with that athletic ability. some people are comparing him at a high end, if he can reach his upside and reach his true potential, to players like Dwayne Wade and Vince Carter, guys that can get their own shot and have that athletic ability. Now, on the low end, someone like a Josh Okogie is kind of where he could fall if he does not reach that potential, because he's at the very least going to be athletic and a very good defender because of those tools. But I would bet that he ends up reaching closer to that high end of the upside. So VJ Edgecombe, number 4. These are probably your top 4 picks in the NBA draft. After these 4, it does take a little bit of a step back. Moving to my number 5 guy here, and that's going to be Tre Johnson, the guard out of Texas, who has gotten a lot more hype coming out in recent weeks. Tre Johnson, he's a bucket getter, man. At that guard spot, that is what he does. He can fill it up from all 3 levels. He's super smooth with the ball in his hands. He makes the game look easy. He's not an elite athlete, but man, he can really get it done, and Texas has really relied on him basically every possession, saying, you got to get us a bucket because we don't really have much else to do on the offensive side of the floor. Now, when I look at Tre Johnson, because this is really a player that I think if the Sixers do stay at 6, kind of the first guy outside of those top 4 that is realistic at that spot. At that guard position, good height, 6'6", long arm, 6'10", wingspan. Some people even report 6'11", but of course, a little bit light, 190. His positives on the left, very good self-creation and shot-making ability. He can shoot it on the move, or he can spot up. He's a high-volume three-point shooter, which is, of course, very valuable in today's league. And he can play both on and off the ball. But at Texas, he has struggled defensively, even though he has some of the tools and the wingspan and the height to be a good defender. Hasn't quite been as locked in at that end. Shot selection is not great. Now, is that more of a product of Texas not really having any other people that can take shots, so he has to do everything himself, potentially, but you'd like to see that improve. One thing is, he really doesn't pressure the rim a whole lot. I think he has more room to grow in that area. He really doesn't pass the ball pretty much at all, but again, is that just because of the way Texas runs their offense? And also, would he really fit with Philadelphia? Because he's not going to be able to play the 3, right? So you have Maxey, you have McCain, would Tre Johnson, how does he fit in with those 2? And would he just be a guy that ends up coming off the bench? It's tough, but he is talented nonetheless, and a player the Sixers should at least be interested in. That's 5 names down, still 5 more to go. Before we get to those names, I want you guys to chime in. Name me one player that you think the Sixers should draft. Let's stay away from Cooper Flagg, because obviously if you have the opportunity, you are going to draft Cooper Flagg. But outside of him, who is one guy that I might have named so far, or I might not name at all in this video, that you would like to see the Sixers take a look at in this year's upcoming NBA draft? And before we get to those 5 names, just want to ask you guys a couple questions here. Do you like saving money? Do you like great deals? And do you like looking good? I know I like all 3 of those things, and most people probably do as well. And if your answer to all 3 of those was yes, well, you got to go get this 76ers polo from our friends at Fanatics, because not only does it look great, right? Nice, the black color with the Sixers logo right there on the chest. You can look fresh while you're wearing it. But we also got a great deal right now. It was $85. It's now down to just $63. If you use our link, chatsports.com/76polo. That link's going to be in the comment section and the description of today's show. The deal won't be around for forever, so make sure to take advantage while you still can and go get yourself one of these 76ers polos. All right, last 5 guys I got here for the Sixers to take a look at in this year's draft. We're going to start with Kon Knueppel, guard out of Duke. And just the second of 3 Duke guys that we're actually going to go through here on the show. They are just churning out talent over there at Duke. Look, he's a shooter, and that's what you're getting out of Kon right here. Low center of gravity, special shooting ability. He can really light it up from the outside, and people are saying he's one of the best shooting prospects in years. He has really been flying up draft boards as of late, and one of the Sixers' biggest issues this season has been shooting that 3 ball and having guys that you can just kick it to and they can hit an open 3. Kon right here, he can absolutely get that done for you. So not quite, the star upside of some of these other guys in the draft, but you're looking for a guy, if you keep that 6th pick, to play a good role for you at the best of his ability, he can absolutely get that done. And going to our 3rd player out of Duke here now at number 7, Khaman Maluach. First center we're talking about here today, and there's really no doubt that when you're looking at the big men available in this class, not a crazy great big man class, but Khaman is definitely the best center prospect in this year's draft. Here's what ESPN had to say about the big men out of Duke. Maluach has been a rock for Duke, anchoring one of college basketball's best defenses with his 7'6" wingspan, nonstop intensity, and rim protection prowess. He plays his role cleanly and efficiently for the Blue Devils, bringing vertical pick-and-roll spacing, offensive rebounding, and a serious-minded, mature approach despite his lack of previous experience. He is an exceptionally skilled or polished. His ability to stay out of foul trouble, minimize mistakes, and contribute offensively in Duke's biggest games will be an important barometer for his NBA readiness and help to determine how high he does get drafted in June. Now, look, we're not going to talk about too many big men because, of course, Joel Embiid is on this team, right? But if you come to the offseason and you've been having these discussions with these doctors that Joel Embiid, long-term future not looking too great, you could start to think post-Embiid and start to think at that long-term future at that center spot. Obviously, Andre Drummond's not the future. I like Adam Bona, but I don't really project him as a long-term starter, better off the bench. So if you're sitting there at 6 and some of these guys go off the board in front of you and Maluach is the best player available, I don't think it's a crazy idea to go get another center prospect similar to Embiid, who hasn't played basketball for all that long and still pretty raw, but has the ability to get stronger, play with more aggression. Tools are all there. He's shown flashes. Just a guy that's got to really put it all together. So those two Duke guys, number 6 and 7 here on today's list. Next, we're moving to the guard from Illinois, Kasparas, Jakucionis. I think I said that right. We'll get these names down as we get closer and closer to draft time. It's the first video here, draft targets on the show. So we're going to get to learn these guys a little bit more. But Kasparas here, a real floor general with size at 6'5", great passing ability, but he pairs it also with a nice outside shot. He can hit the glass a little bit as well. He's really been on a tear early in his freshman season, coming from overseas, playing now in his first year with Illinois. Cooled off a bit lately, but overall been very, very impressive. And he can impact both ends of the floor. He can shoot it off the dribble, a fearless leader. He does have a high ceiling. Again, another guy at that point guard spot, you might be thinking, oh, we have Maxey, we have McCain, but I think the Sixers just need guys that can play basketball and initiate offense. It's been tough initiating offense for the Sixers this year, so Kasparas a guy that can absolutely get that done. Number 9, going back to the big man spot here with Georgia's Asa Newell. Just 2 big men that we're going to talk about here on the show. Another guy that's really been rising up draft boards for Georgia, despite them not having the greatest of seasons over there in Athens, but a hyper-active big forward. He's got some spring in his legs. You can see he's putting up pretty good numbers over there in the difficult SEC, about 15 and 7, shooting 55% from the field, along with 1 block a game. Very efficient with his touches. He can hit the 3 ball a little bit, although it's definitely an area of his game where moving forward he'll definitely want to improve because he doesn't have elite size at 6'10", 220. He is athletic, though, so if he can get that shot to come along, he could maybe be able to play a little bit of stretch 4 mixed in with the 5 and just improve his long-term upside in the NBA. And then last guy here, who I actually really like for fit-wise on this 76ers roster, Liam McNeeley, the forward out of UConn. Another guy here who, doesn't have, at least I don't think, huge superstar upside potential, right? But when you think about the modern NBA and the value of 3 and D players in this league, we know how difficult those are to come across. Liam McNeeley is your guy, man. And of course, playing for that UConn program, we know he's getting coached up very, very well. And a big, strong, highly skilled shot maker. And he is a big-time 3-point shooter. A very easy, smooth release. He is deadly accurate from beyond the arc. But he pairs that with good defensive instincts and good size. So it's not like you're getting just a shooter who's going to be a liability on the other end. He has the tools to be a good defender. He can be a little turnover prone, still a work in progress when it comes to having the ball in his hands. And he's just a decent athlete. Not bad, not great either, but he is a smart cutter and a good finisher. Just a guy that can play well within the flow of an offense. Sixers offense has not had much flow this season. So McNeeley, another guy that's been rising up draft boards this season, another young player, but at 6'7", 210, perfect on that wing spot. Someone that could, again, help this Sixers team when it comes to that 3-point shooting because the Sixers need to take and make more threes to catch up with some of the best teams in the league. All right, that's 10 guys the Sixers could be taking a look at in this upcoming 2025 NBA draft. If you made it through all 10 and you made it to the end of today's show, give me a real one in the comment section. I'll be responding to everybody who gives me a real one because that lets me know you appreciate the content we're doing here. Be sure subscribe to the channel as we move forward. We're going to have more draft talk as the Sixers probably continue to lose games. So be sure to subscribe. Don't miss a thing, and we'll catch you next time here on 76ers Now.